John's not listening to me. No community announcements? Do you have a community announcement?
That's kind of historical side of being Saturday, and interesting enough, we're going to have a candidate for President of the United States as our speaker. Actually, the gentleman that was in Lafayette, Mr. C.L. Gannon, he's actually a real successful novelist, writer, but he's running on the prohibition ticket. And it should be very interesting to talk about that. And not often you get a presidential candidate to come visit your historical society, so that's at 2 o'clock at the Archives building. We welcome everyone to come.
Perfect. Any more community announcements? Okay.
On June the 14th at 2 o'clock, 2 to 4, we will be honoring Linda Gregory. She's retiring from banking after 39 years in banking and 22 years with Wilson Banking Trust. And she would be excited if y'all would come and say goodbye to her. We sadly say goodbye to her, but just put that date on your calendar.
Thank you. Do you have an announcement?
The 4th of July parade, see Amber or myself, or if anybody wants to enter the parade.
Okay, so we're going to sort of go chronological order. We will have a July chamber meeting. It will be July 2nd, but our speaker will be Senator Farrell Hale, and he always does a really good presentation, so yes.
And one more. Iowa Hill Church, Missionary Baptist Church, is celebrating its 150th anniversary Sunday.
So step out and see them too. Yes.
Deputy Clint Fryer was in an accident this past week. He had knee surgery yesterday. I called, checked on him this morning. It tore his knee completely, everything in it. They had to take part of his hamstring, go in and rebuild his knee. I didn't get to talk to him, he was in a lot of pain. But it's going to be about 3 months before he walk again. And we've got a fund set up for him at Charles Bank. Anybody want to make a donation in care of the Sheriff's Department.
Okay. So July 2nd, noon here, chamber meeting. Our speaker will be Senator Farrell Hale. He's good to update us on what's going on, what's pending, and he really enjoys coming to Trousdale County. He has a huge area, and we are by far the smallest portion, but he's very good to come and talk to us. So, July 4th, 4th of July. The parade is at 4, followed by music in the park. So if you want to be in the parade, contact Mark or Amber Russell. If you want to be a vendor and set up, you'll have to contact me. I'm in charge of vendors this year. We are looking for a couple more food vendors, particularly a hot dog hamburger vendor who will sell hamburgers, hot dogs. And anything else you want to sell, advertise, you can have a booth. Booths are $25. If you need electricity for food, they're $50. We'll have music. The Band Boosters are doing a cakewalk. They have a big raffle with some big prizes this year. And then, of course, we'll have the community band and the fireworks. And the watermelon eating contest. If you have not seen the watermelon eating contest, you have to come see the watermelon eating contest. Anything else? No? Okay. So we're going to go ahead and get started with our speaker because he has a lot to say and he's very interesting. We've had him, we've invited him to speak before to the chamber directors when we were talking about this project. So please welcome Mr. Jeff Brown, who's not quite done the
Obviously, as you can tell, missing a little food's probably not going to kill me. So my name's Jeff Brown, and I'm the president and one of the founders of the Biz Foundry. And so we are a regional entrepreneur center for the Upper Cumberland region, and there are 6 of us across the state, and we are by far the most rural. Jackson is the next smallest one, and then you got Knoxville, Nashville, Chattanooga, Memphis. So we're pretty small compared to all those guys. There were originally 9 entrepreneur centers. 3 of them lost their funding about 3 years ago. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I guess we try to say we survived the cut anyway. And so part of what they've asked me to talk about, so there's 2 or 3 things. So I'll do my standard disclaimer is the reason we started a nonprofit, myself and a few entrepreneurial friends of mine, is because we wanted to say and do what we wanted to say and do. So if I offend anybody, it's totally me. right? I try not to offend people, but we tend to say what we think needs to be said. And we started a nonprofit for a reason. We didn't have to do this. We did it because we wanted to try to build entrepreneurship in the region for what it could and should be. And we kind of think your football coach should have played a little football. So if you're going to do an entrepreneurial foundation, we think it should be run by entrepreneurs. We're weird that way, right? And so, we typically think if you're going to help people start businesses, you probably should have started and run a couple. Just guessing. If not, we just have our college football coaches. We don't have to pay them $7 million a year. We just buy them a book, right? And we pay them $40,000 a year. So we think experience matters. And so that's basically how we got started. Is we came up with the idea. Governor Haslam announced these. They're not really grants. They're really work contracts. So we sign a contract every year. We have to do outcomes. We have reporting. Goals we have to hit, numbers we have to hit. So we're really almost a hired contractor for an organization called Launch Tennessee, which Launch Tennessee is in charge of entrepreneurship and innovation across the state. They are a public-private partnership with the Department of Economic Development. So ECD gives them money, they raise their own money, they get foundation money from different places across the United States. And then we're kind of their boots on the ground, and by far the most rural one. So how do you do, part of what we try to talk about is, so I was a county commissioner for 12 years in Cumberland County. I've been in every chamber seat. I've been president of Rotary. I've done it all. I started about 7 companies. One I started a couple of years ago that's very technical, which I know very little about technology, but I know what I needed it to do and how to hire good people. So we're doing virtual reality programming. We built a virtual reality simulator to train forklift operators. Now, I don't type a line of code, but I know how to go find people who want to hire forklift operators who are having trouble training them. So that's my forte. I have a 23-year-old about to be college grad who has built this thing from scratch, and my job is to keep everybody else from hiring him away from me. Because as people have seen what he can do, everybody wants his phone number. So I protect his phone number. The good thing is he doesn't want to leave Cookeville. He doesn't want to go to Silicon Valley. He doesn't want to live in Nashville. He's kind of like me. He's decided he's not going to live anywhere that has more than 3 lanes of interstate through it. That's my motto. Nashville is way too big for me. I love to visit. So how do you do entrepreneurship in a rural area? And part of what we've talked about is so I use Cumberland County as an example. I was a commissioner there, so, part of what we went through for years is we did all our planning like Ford was coming tomorrow, right? So they're going to come and build a plan here and be our savior. Well, I will be 57 years old tomorrow. It has not happened yet. Since I started as an entrepreneur, 26 years old, I quit my first corporate job and said, to heck with this, I will be on my own. So, entrepreneurship is a weird science, right? So it's very messy. So traditional economic development likes to say, we're gonna go build an industrial park and we'll have sites and we'll have buildings and all these huge companies. And then one of the things I got in huge fights with the Crossville Chamber about was their marketing message. We're on I-40 and we've got great people. Wow. Nobody else ever thought of that message. There's 2,500 miles of I-40. That's your biggest differentiator. What do? Why do you want people to come here? And honestly, after 30 years, they still can't answer that. So they don't like it when people like me and my board ask them that question, to be real honest with you. But again, I grew up in Cumberland County, so I get, not being hateful, but I'm trying to push them to, guys, figure out the same thing we teach an entrepreneur. We don't care what your idea is. We really are not here to judge your idea. Our crystal ball was broken years ago. If our crystal ball worked, that we could look and go, that's a good idea and that's a bad idea, I would have flown you all to the Bahamas on my private jet to do this talk today. If I could pick winners and losers, any of us could at our organization. We'd just go buy stock for a few months and we'd all be gazillionaires, right? So what we try to do is we teach entrepreneurs is until you have a value proposition, you have something that real people with real money will give you their money to get, you don't have a business, right? You can write business plans, you can have the greatest accounting system, you can have the greatest legal system, you can rent the greatest building. We see it all the time. Entrepreneurs they come to us a little too late, honestly. They've already signed a 3-year lease for a building they can't afford. They've done an LLC because Uncle Joe told them they should do an LLC. And they've signed for all this equipment, and what they don't know yet is how to get a customer. So go get customers first. Buildings are easy. One of my businesses was a huge real estate operation. You know what it takes to get a building? Call a real estate office. They'll have you a building that afternoon. You don't need to spend a lot of time on that, right? Now, you may have to spend some time looking, but what successful entrepreneurs figure out how to solve a problem for people that will give them their money. Period. Why do you buy anything? What's the last thing you bought? Clothes. Why did you buy those clothes? Because you wanted them. What problem did they solve for you? You wanted to look good, you wanted to go to an event, whatever. Did you buy the clothes because the person that owned them just loved them? Did you buy the clothes based on where they went to college or what their GPA was? No. So I work with a lot of college kids at Tennessee Tech. So I've sold hundreds of millions of dollars worth of things in my lifetime. And you know what? No customer have ever asked me, Jeff, where did you go to school and what was your GPA? They don't care. What do customers care about? What does it do for them? That's why they give you their money, right? So we get a lot of college professors that I've invented this thing and everybody will love it. Dude, I'm pretty smart. And I graduated from the same school you teach at, and I don't even understand what you just said. So everybody's not going to buy it, right? If you make prom dresses, I have never, well, maybe once, worn a prom dress. Our Rotary Club did that ugliest contest or thing, so maybe I did wear one once. But you know, when you say everybody's going to be your customer, that's the first thing we hear from most entrepreneurs. So from an economic development standpoint, what I'm saying to this group of people is if you want to do things different in Hartsville, we got to figure out what we've got that has value, right? And I don't know what that is. I'm telling you, I'm not an expert in anything. But I'm with a group of people that we threw together some resources and took off, and we act like a startup. We try things. If it doesn't work, we don't do it again. Sometimes we will do it the second time if there wasn't too much bloodshed the first. But, you know, we try a lot of different things. So great entrepreneurs are great problem solvers, right? They're not geniuses. So they're good problem solvers. They can understand the problem. And they're about half bulldog, right? So they don't give up. So turns out one of the things we now see, we're starting on our 6 years. When you look at entrepreneurship on even a local level, that grit is the most important characteristic, right? They're smart, they're willing to listen, but they have grit, right? They don't just quit every time something bad happens. So I also speak on dealing with millennials. Any of y'all deal with millennials? Right? So we have that talk. They're lazy, they're entitled, they're whatever. So 2 things. My grandparents said the same thing about me, that not having a party line, having a private line telephone at our house, I'd never be worth a damn for anything. Remember that? How many of you, right? So what I'm saying is grandparents have said this about the next generation forever, right? So then we went through, but the coolest thing I've heard is we have a lady who's a very successful entrepreneur and her son's 23. So he is the ultimate millennial. So she's talking to him about complaining that I can't get these millennials to show up or they won't do whatever. And he had the greatest question ever. Because she is very smart. And usually she's like me. Very seldom is she speechless. He said, Mom, you raised us. I got no comeback for that. She didn't either. Right? So, you know, we went through that period of I coached a lot of youth sports, and everybody got a trophy and we got awarded for participation. That's why they're the way they are. It's because helicopter parents have never let them fail. They've never let them get their butt kicked. They have no resilience. It's our fault, though, is my point. We or our kids raised them. It's not their fault. So part of what I'm going to speak here in a couple months at a thing on is, okay, we got them. Now what do we do, right? You know, how do we figure out how to work with them? And I work with a lot of them. So now, granted, here's the rub. I probably do get some of the better ones because they're being sent to me by different people who have said, this kid's really smart. And, you know, so I do get probably to see the top half. They are not lazy. We just have not figured out how to motivate them, right? So what I've found is I ask them, when I find out what they want to do and somehow relate that to what I need them to do, lazy's no longer a problem. They don't answer their phone. They just don't. That frustrates me to no end. They're not really good about checking emails. So the tech students, the Tennessee tech students that I work with, I teach entrepreneurship there. We run a program called Aqua. And so it's really, they don't check their email. And so, because in their world, what? It's all text or Facebook message, right? My guys, in the world of business, email still runs everything, right? You have to check your email. But what we're talking about is this theory of entrepreneurship. How do we help things here in Hartsville? Well, I don't know. But I can tell you the greatest thing we've found is just start asking hard questions. And we're opening a branch in Sparta this year, a co-working spot. So we do entrepreneurship. We run boot camps where we actually help them figure out how to build a business, do a lot of nuts and bolts. But everything starts with customer, right? Do you have something that has a value proposition to a customer? That's the first 3 or 4 weeks of our boot camp. Then it moves into the nuts and bolts of, you know, accounting, legal, all that kind of stuff. But really, you got to figure out, most businesses can start out of the trunk of their car just fine. Anybody, how many people in here own a business? Did you start with everything you needed? Did you start selling stuff out of the back of your truck? Or, yeah, I mean, so what we're saying is experiment very cheaply. And that's what we're talking, when we say fail fast, we're not really saying fast, but learn fast. Start cheap, learn fast. And if it doesn't work, you've probably just invested a little of your time and maybe a little inventory or something, but you haven't signed a 3-year lease that you're now going to spend a year in court trying to get out of, right? And so there's just the way people, what have people always been told on how to start a business? So how many government people are in the room? All right, I'm gonna go ahead and apologize right off the bat. All right, an entrepreneur goes to their local county or city office and, you know, help me start a business. Well, you need to get your business license, you need to get your inspections done, you need to get this. Yes, that is a checklist that needs to be done at some point. What does that have to do with getting you a customer? Nothing. So I say this, and again, I was a county official. So a business license is just simply making sure you know you should send them a tax bill. That's all it is. It doesn't do anything to help you start your business. All right? I'm not saying we shouldn't do it, but I'm just saying typically what people tell them is that stuff's important. No, that's administrative stuff. That's like filing taxes. You do it because you have to, not because it's important. Right? How many people woke up in the last 6 months and said, man, I just need to get work on my taxes all day. That'll make me hugely successful. But yet that's the kind of thing we tell entrepreneurs, right? So an accountant, typically, that has never been an entrepreneur, will tell them they need to have this elaborate, man, we had one last week come in. 0 income, never sold anything. Has an accounting system that I could run Walmart. Right? You know, they've spent hundreds of hours and thousands of dollars. They've got the greatest accounting system ever and haven't made one sale. Stop doing that. Right? Figure out how to find customers. Do that first. So that's part of what I'm saying is for this group, when we figure out how do we spread entrepreneurship? How do we make a difference here in Hartsville? Well, the number one thing we found, especially now that, so we spent 5 years beating people over the head about entrepreneurship. Now we're getting smarter, right? Now we go where they're begging us to come. So that's what happened in Sparta and McMinnville, is this ground oil of support, 5, 6, 7, 8 people get together with a new attitude, right? That probably we're not gonna recruit somebody that has 1,000 employees, but how can we help 2 businesses start that hire 5 people? All right, so I'll tell you, go back to another story. The main reason I started an entrepreneur center is I was that guy that I had been starting and owning businesses for 8 or 10 years, got to be probably in my early 30s. There was a guy came to Crossville. He was gonna hire 55 people. He built some kind of thing, it was like rollers for paving or maybe paving machines. 55 employees. We gave him the property. We gave him 20 years worth of tax breaks. We rode him around on the fire truck. It's all in the paper. 3 months later, I wanted to build a new office for my building. I asked the city if I could have a free water meter, since he just got like $600,000 worth of incentives. Now, I've been hiring people for years. I have 15, 17, you probably share this feeling with me. I have 15, 17 employees. I've been out there taking this risk forever. Nope. So how many of you have a phone with Verizon? So Verizon, I have to have Verizon because where I travel, they have the best service. I don't care what anybody says, I just have to have it. So I tell people we tend to use the Verizon model in economic incentives is, well, you're already our customer, we're not giving you squat. If I drop my phone and break it this afternoon, I don't get free anything. But if you've never seen me before and I come wandering in, you'll give me a $1,000 phone for free. That's kind of how economic development incentives work. If you've been here humping it, trying to build a business, giving money to schools, giving money to Rotary, doing all that stuff, do you know what you get when you expand? 0, right? So now, the state senator out of Sparta is working to combine the employment incentives. You got to hire 25 people now to qualify for those ECD incentives of expansion. So he's working to where businesses can combine. So if you're hiring 5 and he's hiring 7, if you can get enough people to add up to 25, you get the money and then split it according to how many people you hire. That's a good idea, right? I like that idea. But how do we change things here in Hartsville? So what we've seen is you got to have that core group of people, right? That really believe in entrepreneurship. It needs to be at least about half entrepreneurs. I'm telling you, that's really important because people will listen to them. If they're the ones out there doing it, it means more. If you can get that group together and don't think you got to go build everything today. It's taken us 5 years to even say that we figured out what we think we ought to be doing, right? Much less are we good at it? Yeah, we're growing and fairly successful, but I mean, we still don't think we're doing a good enough job, and we've spent a lot of time and effort. So don't think, just like every entrepreneur, don't think you're gonna go be a raging success in a year. And don't be afraid to change as you go, right? Could we do a little co-working space? How many of you people know a remote worker that works at home, right? So there are figures out there right now. Sparta has really done a lot of work on this. So, Sparta has all the falls, the rivers, those kind of things. So they're trying to tie that natural outdoor tourism sport to co-working, to remote workers. So there are 3 people that actually work for Cisco that live in Sparta, right? So all 3 of them are going to rent in our co-work space. They want to get out of their house and quit living in the coffee shops. The coffee shop owners would like for you to quit working there 12 hours a day buying 2 cups of coffee. But anyway, the co-working in rural areas is a very viable alternative, right? So those co-workers are usually techies. right? So you need a co-working space, place for them to sit with a copier, printer, scanner, really fast internet. Typically, those jobs are $80,000 and above. So we have a deal with it's called Flex Jobs, and it's a website that puts all those jobs out there that you can work remotely. And so think about that as something that could work here. It's working really well in a lot of areas, because you get 8 or 10 people that are remote workers making 80 to 100 grand a year. That's a pretty good deal. That's an economic change. And you know what that cost you as a community? There was no water, there's no sewer, we didn't buy 50 acres of land, we didn't have to do any of that. It cost you almost nothing. So that's kind of what I'm talking about, and kind of what they asked me to speak about is, how do you think about entrepreneurship, remote workers? The reason that ties to entrepreneurship is because entrepreneurs also like the co-working spaces. So we moved into our building, the one we're in now, about 1.5 years ago. We totally remodeled it, made it really cool, like downtown Nashville. About killed me. I'm too old to be doing projects like that by myself anymore. So I use these slides for all kinds of different talks, so let me forward through some of this. So really, when you're talking about entrepreneurship, you need 3 things. You need infrastructure, and we need infrastructure for entrepreneurship and innovation, not water, sewer. Right? This is not water, sewer, roads. So infrastructure is number 1, broadband, fast internet. Is there gig speed internet here in town? Okay. Cultural change, right? So these entrepreneurs that are going to start companies, does everybody, how many bankers I got in the room? So let me go ahead and apologize to them, right? So you ever see the typical bank picture, the officers and board of directors? And so, you know, there's this wood paneled background, and they're all sitting at the conference table, and they're either in really dark navy blue or black 3-piece suits. The typical bank picture, right? Or people. That is not what these companies are going to look like. It's going to be 2 guys in jeans and people wearing a sweatshirt. And these are techies. They're more techie. So they're not going to look like the guys that started the bank. They're not going to look like 60-year-olds that are professionals. So that's a little different. And then support. Support is things like the programs we run, boot camps, workshops. So we'll run about 40 workshops a year on everything from QuickBooks to email marketing to all the things that entrepreneurs need help with, right? So we have had, out of our co-working space that we know of, we've had 7 companies start just because they were all in the building together, right? So since you started a company, don't you kind of want to start more? So it's kind of like a fever. Once you do it, you kind of can't get it. So you'll be with 2 other guys, and one of them have an idea, and the next thing you know, the 3 of you have taken off and started another company. So we've had 7 pretty good companies take off out of there. But so there's the support services. Can you get good lawyers that know entrepreneurship and business law? Can you get good accountants that know that? You know, and when you're trying to get them to move here, you know, you need decent schools. You need outdoor activities, those kind of things to get them to stay here, right? So they're not looking for a 3-story sheetrock and carpet bank building, right? What do they want to be in? What do they want their offices to look like? Coffee shop. Yep, look just like a coffee shop. It's exactly what our building looks like. Then you've also got to accept that a lot of these are going to fail. Failure rate's high, right? So I grew up on a cattle farm, you know, and you lose a certain amount of cattle when you're born. You lose a certain amount of entrepreneurs as they're born. Some of them are just bad at it. Some of them had bad ideas. But it's okay, right? That's not the end of the world. What you're looking for is that every 5th or 6th one that hits it pretty big. So what does entrepreneur mean to the people in this room? What does that mean? When I say entrepreneur, you're related to Hartsville and Trousdale County. What does that look like to you? What do their businesses look like? Come on, you can talk.
Small scale niche type business.
get bakeries, cupcake shops, that kind of stuff. Nothing wrong with that. They do look like that. But what we're really working toward is how do we get that one that her little bakery 3 years from now is distributing bread all over the state of Tennessee. Because if all you're doing is splitting the money inside Trousdale County, if there's 2 power stores here and the next entrepreneur starts a 3rd power store, is that economic development? Nope. We're just splitting the pie up differently. How do we build businesses that grow the pie? Their customers are not here. They're bringing their money into here. That's what you're really, so it all has to happen. But where you really start growing the economy is when you get a few of them, right? So we've got a lady that launched a piece of software for the trucking industry, and it's DOT compliant. So it's kind of like doing your taxes. Nobody ever that owns a bunch of trucks that has DOT numbers woke up and said, I can't wait to do all my DOT paperwork today, because it's horrible and the fines are huge, right? So she's built a piece of software, selling it all over the country. All her income is from outside the area. So that's what Launch Tennessee is trying to do, is how do we build these companies that can get that next step bigger? Nothing wrong with the ones that don't. That has to happen as well. But how do we take what they learned and translate it? Can we grow them to where they're selling bread in 3 states instead of doing the bakery down the street? So that's kind of the theory you're going for. Won't go through all this stuff. Access to capital, man, that's a tough one in our area. If you haven't noticed, there's not venture capital companies on any corner that I'm aware of other than in Nashville, Memphis, and Chattanooga. We don't have a lot of them around here, but we have been able to build relationships. So one of the things that's been a surprising number for us is we were hoping in 5 years we could raise about $3 million of investment for companies. So at the end of 5 years, we have helped raise about $7.2 million. That was a pleasant surprise, and and quite frankly, the one we did not expect would be that good. Now we had a couple that got some really big investments, $750,000, $800,000, so that made that number jump pretty quick, but we didn't expect it. So programs are just all these kind of things, pop-up shops, help encourage developers to hang out here, right? So a 21-year-old with a $500 laptop can build $1 billion business, right? They don't have to be in Silicon Valley. They may have to go to Silicon Valley to raise the money. Business in a box is our boot camp. So these things we can come and do for you. Don't go, if you guys get interested in doing this, don't go build all this stuff yourself, because the entrepreneur centers across the state, we got 20 years worth of content we can do for you. So we've already done all that work. So that's a whole lot of why I'm here, since I'm the most rural one. I've done a lot of work with ECD and TVA and those people on rural entrepreneurship. And part of it's don't waste your time and resources. We got about anything you can imagine, and we'll give you anything you want, or we'll come and help you do it. This is one we did with the guys out of the Knoxville Entrepreneur Center. So we do Etsy workshops. So all these people that make crafts, everybody familiar with Etsy? So we help them actually start an Etsy store. I mean, we don't help, this is 2 weekends, and when they leave, they've got their product pictures. They have an operating Etsy store when they leave. So one of the things I've always said, now some people don't agree with me, but if you're in areas like ours where average income, and y'all are such an outlier on average income compared to most of my counties, but part of what we need in the upper Cumberlands, we got to increase average income, right? Average family income. Well, so if the family's living on $40,000 a year and mom starts an Etsy store that sells $6,000 a year, man, that's a 15% increase in their family income. That's probably worth doing. That's how we got to do an Etsy. And then we did some other things to help them. So we kind of help them start. Then we have some programs for when you are to that point, you do want to start growing. I want to get bigger, right? So now I've got to get investment. I've got to raise bigger chunks of money, all those kind of things. Because what happens when you start growing a business?
Takes more money to grow.
Your cash flow, all right? And so you just almost have to raise some kind of investment or borrow money or something if you're gonna go into a high growth period, because your profit just can't sustain the growth, according to how fast you wanna grow. But typically, and we work with a lot of them, we work with about 350 companies a year, and I don't think there's been more than a couple of them that didn't go through that when they were trying to grow very quickly, because we get them, it's like, I don't need to raise any money. And then about a year and a half in, when they start growing really fast, like, I gotta raise money. Well, it takes about a year to raise money, right? A year to a year and a half. So now we tell them at day one, we're gonna start getting you ready for that, whether you ever do it or not. Because what you don't wanna do is decide you need to do it, and you got another year and a half in front of you. And you can die during that period. And then network a lot, right? We have lots of happy hours, we have all kinds of things, but how do you get just people that are interested in a room together, give them a cup of coffee, give them a sandwich, give them a beer, whatever it is, right? So we believe in entrepreneurship that, you know, from 5 a.m. to 3 p.m. it's coffee, from 3 p.m. on it's beer. And so how do you get these people in a room together? Because the best stuff we've done came from just getting those relationships started. We are not geniuses, but we're really good at getting people together and hanging out. And that's where the good stuff happens. In a very informal fashion, by the way. We don't do anything formally, per se. And then co-working spaces. So what we do is, so we rent as little as $79 a month. That's Monday through Friday, right? So we have a piece of software that manages the building, all that your keys, your phone, right? So when you pay your membership, you activate the app on your phone, you unlock the doors with your phone. For $99 a month, you get access 24/7. And then we do some private offices. We have 5 private offices. Honestly, if we had a dozen, we could rent them right now. So we're looking at adding some of those. So there are people who want the private offices, we charge $229 a month. I haven't told them yet that's going up, but we have too much demand to not raise the price on those. So we're gonna raise the price on those a little bit. And so, you know, co-working spaces, you can typically, what we try to do is, since we're a nonprofit, is get those co-working spaces to where we have enough rental income or the co-workers that it pays the lease, the utilities, and coffee. So we have water, coffee, we have really good coffee from a local coffee shop. It's fresh around every pot. They put in all our equipment. So the coffee is key. Honestly, we have more people come to see us the first time because of the coffee than they do because we're so damn smart, right? So it's just really interesting what people come to our building for. And we have a little event space that you can rent for like $35 an hour. And so we get a lot of entrepreneurs who'll do their launch parties and stuff like that there. And we did that for that reason. We got conference rooms that are part of your rental. You get some of yours, and we have a small 4-person, and we have a big 14-person conference room, and you can reserve those all inside this piece of software. So pretty cool software. It manages the building for us. So that's what a co-working space is, and that's a great place to start. And I think that's what the mayor and I have talked about. So it's called a placemaking grant. And so this really is about placemaking more than it's about co-working or entrepreneurship, but it's about building places that people want to come. And in this case, building places that remote workers and entrepreneurs want to come to, right? And so this is their office, and it's pretty interesting. So we have, like I say, we have huge demand for our private offices. We have about probably 26 other members. So the one in Cookeville, the one in Sparta, we're only gonna have like 3 private offices. We've already got those rented, and we haven't even closed on the building yet. So we got people fighting over those. McMinnville will have 5 private offices there. By the end of next week, they'll probably be rented, and we haven't even signed the lease yet. So it's amazing the demand that's out there for this, that quite frankly, we didn't see that coming. Anyway, then we've done other things to encourage. So this is kind of our building in Cookeville. And so lots of glass. It's all glass walls as much as we could afford. Glass walls are very expensive. So up front here, we have just a co-working space. We have big tables that, there were 2 big maple trees blew down in a tornado, so we sawed those up, made these huge tables, and then took black pipe and made the legs and all that stuff. So again, kind of the barnwood look, kind of the industrial look building. And so we got co-working space, you can see private offices and a little meeting space, then you can't really tell, but right here in the middle, that's our kitchen, coffee area. We have a digital media lab where we can help you with pictures, video. Every entrepreneur needs great pictures and great video in today's world. So we can help do all that for you. We have all the equipment to do it, and actually a kid that knows what he's doing. Again, you don't want me doing it, but we've got some talented people. And so again, this is some old numbers here, but just kind of that warehouse, industrial kind of look. The older the building, the better. I can tell you what we ran into in the buildings is that heat and air and electricals, where all your money's gonna be spent. If you've ever remodeled much, I've done it my whole life, but our building in Cookeville, electrical was probably 2.5 times what we estimated it. So anyway, so any questions about how do you get started? All kinds of things. Are there a lot of entrepreneurs based here? So, see, it's an interesting thing. I speak about 100 times a year, and I talk to crowds, especially at big Rotary clubs. I do a lot of Rotary. By the way, the chicken salad's excellent, and much better than the rubber sauteed chicken at most. I'm a chicken salad fan. I ask them what company started with an entrepreneur, and you usually get the typical Bill Gates, you know, all that, and nobody ever mentions their local entrepreneurs. Are there any businesses here?
Yes.
Every one of those businesses started with an entrepreneur. How else do businesses start? The storks don't bring them in, right? So every business starts with an entrepreneur. Probably your school, probably your hospital was all started by an entrepreneur, right? Most hospitals in rural areas, a group of guys got together and said, we're having to haul everybody to Nashville and they're dying. Maybe we should start a hospital. That's entrepreneurship. It doesn't have to be for profit. And so solving problems and figuring out a way to get there, it may have taken them years. But so it's really trying to get, you know, even 5 or 6 people together that understand local entrepreneurship and that you want to help people, because it really is kind of a band of brothers and sisters, is that we believe in mentorship very much. We have a group of about 30 mentors, and most entrepreneurs are more than willing to help the next one. Because they remember going through it, right? And even if they're hugely successful, they remember how tough it was. So we have a lady who's doing about $13 million a year in sales, and she tells the story of her second order of supplies. She had to get half the money out of her kid's college account, and her husband about killed her over it. You know, now she's got 2,200 dealers across the world and doing pretty well. She's in Costa Rica this week, by the way. So. On vacation, but they really will help each other from a mentorship standpoint. And a lot of times I'll meet this afternoon with a lady. The first meeting with her was just strictly that she was in friendly territory and could talk about things that you wouldn't talk about in front of other people, because we've all been there, right? You ever been late paying a bill? Yeah, you get a customer don't pay you and you don't have any cash. So starting a business is about cash flow. It's not about having all this money. And so, you know, understanding that you're in a room with people that have been there and done that mentorship aspect is huge. Because that's really probably the best thing we do. Any questions? I probably went way past my 20 minutes. It's 1 o'clock.
Well, when you started, where did you market outside of social media?
A lot of Rotary. I mean, a lot of guerrilla marketing, mostly, and it's still, I'll tell you, the whole Launch Tennessee network, all 6 of us, our single biggest problem is how do we find that lady that's in her basement hacking away, working on this company, and doesn't know we exist, doesn't know help is out there. It's tough.
Same problem here, because the Small Business Administration, the service provided, but nobody knew to take advantage of it. So occasionally we get a phone call here and there, but you know, it's about, you know, where do you spend marketing dollars to
It
attract
is,
these
it's
people from?
hard, so we are just now, we run an email list of about 2,000 people now. We are just now feeling like we're figuring that out, so we'll let you know. I think it's just doing lots of meetups, lots of happy hours, lots of lunches. Our biggest thing we've done is called Ladies Lunch and Learn, really complicated name. So this is where women entrepreneurs or women who want to be entrepreneurs get together once a month. We have a sponsor buys their lunch, which is also funny because my job's to raise money. We have sponsors killing to sponsor that. We've got it sponsored for like a year and a half out right now and having to turn them away. So we'll have between 30 and 40 women every month and have speakers, workshops, different things during that. It's an hour and a half, they eat lunch and they're gone. And that has been the fastest growing thing we've done. And we just got together a group of 6 women, a couple of pretty successful entrepreneurs, and said, here's the building and let us know when you need money. And we didn't manage it at all. And it's been the fastest growing thing we did. So things like that, and that's just more and more people finding out there's help out there. It takes a long time. Anything else? Thank you for having me. I'll see you again.
So, thank you for the words of encouragement. Before we draw the door prize, I want to remind everyone of the 4th of July. It's on a Thursday. You don't have a long weekend, so stay in town. There's a watermelon eating contest, a cakewalk, a dunk tank, which I have a verbal commitment from Word and Washburn to get in the dunk tank. And where did Clint go? Clint usually gets in the dunk tank too. Those are premium throws, though, I'm going to tell you. Those are premium. Yes, the dunk tank.
He said I didn't get wet last year. I said, I can't help that the people who threw had a noodle for
We're going to get him wet this year. We would also like to thank, since it was announced on the radio last Friday, we would also like to thank Roger and Linda Gregory for all their service to Hartsville. 39 years in the print shop, so thank you. Now we're going to have a door prize. We'll let our speaker draw, since everyone else probably has a ticket and wants to win. You might too, but you can draw your.
I didn't look, I promise.
Just draw 2 door prizes.
I do too.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. So our door prizes are courtesy of Hartsville Pharmacy today. The last 4 digits are 7323. Ah, Mr. Falco. Oh, I trust you. And ironically, the next one is 7324. So whoever, So you get the Tennessee Backroads restaurant recipes.
All right.
If nothing else, you'll know where to go eat as you travel across the state.
Hey, thank you.
Yep. Okay, thank you all for coming. July 2nd, Senator Farrell Hale will be here. Have a great day.
Much about entrepreneurship.